So let me ask you a question. It's a big one. Is reality one thing, or is it two? Now that might sound super simple, but that single question, that's the fork in the road where basically all philosophy and religion begins. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the two fundamental paths that every worldview, consciously or not, has to choose between.
You know, at some point, we all have that moment. Maybe you're staring up at the stars, or just lying in bed, and you wonder, why is there anything at all? Why all of this, instead of just nothing? It is the ultimate question, and it turns out there are really only two basic ways you can even begin to answer it.
Yeah, the theologian Colin Gunton puts it really bluntly here. He says, the choice is this. Either the universe was created by a free personal being, or somehow it created itself. So, a creator or the creation. That's it. Those are the only two options on the table. Every single belief system, yours, mine, everyone's, ends up on one side of that line. All right, so let's really look at these two views of reality. We can kind of think of them as a binary view and a non-binary view. And trust me, this isn't just some abstract philosophy game. This choice has massive consequences for how you and I see everything and our place in the middle of it all. Okay, so here it is, the core conflict laid out side by side. In a binary reality, there's a hard, clear line. God exists, and he is totally separate from his creation. Reality is two distinct things. But in a non-binary reality, that line just dissolves. The creator and the creation are seen as the same fundamental thing. Reality is one. This, right here, is the essential choice. Now, there's a classic philosophical name for this reality is one idea. It's called monism. Comes from the Greek word monos, which just means one, and the concept is pretty wild when you think about it. It means that you, me, the chair you're sitting in, the stars in the sky, it's all just different ripples in the same cosmic ocean, a single unified substance. And on the other side, the reality is two idea, we have theism. This is probably a bit more familiar to a lot of us. It's the belief in a God who is transcendent, which is a fancy way of saying he stands outside of and apart from the universe he made. The key word here is distinct. God is one kind of being, and everything he created is a totally different kind of being. So let's go down that monistic path first, the search for the one. This isn't some New Age idea. It's an ancient quest. It really kicks off with the very first Greek philosophers who were just obsessed with this one question. What's the single stuff that everything is made of? And I mean, we're going way back to the pre-Socratics. These guys were the absolute pioneers of Western philosophy. And you know, they argued about almost everything, but they were all united by this one powerful assumption, that behind all the messy complexity of the world, there had to be one single unifying principle. The only question was, what was it? And their answers were just fascinating. Thales, who's considered the first, looked around and said, it's simple. Everything is water. But his student, Anaximander, thought that was too simple. He went way more abstract. He said it was all made of something he called the apeiron, basically a boundless, indefinite, primal stuff behind everything we see. Then you get Anaximenes, who brought it back to something physical. He argued it was all air, believing that air, through thickening and thinning, creates everything else. And then there was Heraclitus, who saw the unifying thing not as a substance, but as a process, constant change, or flux, which he represented with the symbol of fire. But here's the thing to remember. It doesn't really matter who was right. What matters is they all started from the exact same place, this core monistic belief that everything is one. Now, this quest for unity didn't just stop. It got way more sophisticated. The heavyweights, Plato and Aristotle, took it up next. Plato, famously, kind of points up. He argued that true reality isn't here. It's in a higher realm of perfect, ideal forms. But his student, Aristotle, he points down, insisting that no, reality is found right here in the physical matter that we can touch and see. But, and this is the crucial insight, even though they had this famous disagreement, they were still playing the same game. Whether you start with Plato's perfect ideas or Aristotle's physical stuff, for both of them, everything exists on one continuous spectrum of being. There's no hard wall between the stuff of the gods and the stuff of the earth. In a very real sense, it's all divine. It is still a monistic, non-binary reality.
Okay, now let's hit the brakes and make a hard turn. Let's look at that other path, the binary, theistic view. Because this next idea introduces a distinction so radical, it basically shatters that whole monistic tradition we've just been exploring.
So, where does this radically different idea come from? Well, the foundational text for this view, as our source material points out, comes from the Christian scriptures, specifically the book of Romans. And it talks about this fundamental exchange, swapping the truth of God for a lie. And the result? People end up worshiping and serving the creature, the creation, instead of the creator. So let's just unpack that. From this perspective, serving the creature is basically what happens in a non-binary or monistic reality, where the creation itself is treated as divine. Serving the creator, then, demands a binary reality, where you accept God as totally separate and distinct. So in this framework, the lie is blurring that line, and the truth is insisting on it fiercely. So let's be absolutely crystal clear about what this binary reality is. It's a reality built on an uncrossable divide. On one side, you have the uncreated, eternal creator. And on the other side, you have everything else, the created, finite, totally dependent universe. They are two completely different categories of existence, period. Now, I know a lot of this might seem like ancient history, dusty philosophy books, but the choice between one and two, between monism and theism, is arguably more relevant today than it has ever been. This isn't just an ancient debate. It's a choice that's very much alive and right in front of us. In fact, our source identifies a modern trend it calls the new spiritual synthesis. It's described as this growing effort to establish that non-binary, monistic worldview, that all is one idea, as the sort of default global perspective. A spiritual framework that could, in theory, unify all kinds of different beliefs and paths under one big tent.
And so we end right back where we started, with a choice. That ancient fork in the road is still right there. In our world, which is just flooded with competing ideas all clamoring for our attention, the question holds. When it really comes down to it, what is the ultimate reality you serve? Is it the creation or the creator? That's a question that only you can answer,